Hey everyone, and welcome into the Reload podcast along with Nathan Gilslider and Marshall Scott. I'm Justin Southwell, and I'm excited. I've been excited for a little while, but now it finally feels real. The Eric Morris era has begun in Stillwater, Oklahoma. He was introduced to the Oklahoma State faithful today. Wanted to get your first impressions. Nathan, what'd you think coming right out of the gate?
I mean, I don't know how much more you can expect from a guy. I thought he really did a great job. I think, some of the values and things that you've heard clamorings of from Oklahoma State fans of like wanting more out of Coach Gundy over the last several years. Maybe it's relationally or, willing to do more or, recruiting high school or you name it. He hit just about every box, whether he knew he was doing it or not, which I don't think he did, which makes it even better. It felt right. Like it just felt like he was very comfortable. It felt like the values and things that Oklahoma State fans want and wanted from their new coach, like he espoused them all. I would much rather win on Saturdays than on the press conference, but I think he did a good job. And I think, I don't know. I mean, Marshall, you were there obviously, but it really felt like an energy that hasn't been at Oklahoma State in quite a while in football. Just like the newness and the production value and things that were going on with the band and the confetti and doing all the things that big programs do when these things happen. I just thought it was really well done.
Yeah, being there, it was pretty cool. If anybody's ever been in the OSU Alumni Center, is in that big room in there. It was packed. This was definitely a scenario where they probably could have done this in a GIA or some sort and had a nice turnout. I think they probably wanted the pictures to be good, and I think they were. So yeah, it was awesome. He was great. Like I said, it was a classic. He won the press conference type of day. We sort of talked about this a little bit beforehand, but as a small town kid, hashtag shout out Middle America, it was like cool hearing him talk about all of the small town aspects that he appreciates about Stillwater. We talked about this before, but whenever I got to school in the fall of 2014 and people from Dallas would tell me, whoa, Stillwater, it's a small town. I'd be like, you guys are nuts. You guys are absolutely insane. Yeah, I felt like I related to him quite a bit on that, and just his willing. He wants to. I think it was cool to, you never know how the transition from a legend is going to go, but the fact that he seems so dead set on wanting to be in Stillwater, and this is like he wants to raise his family in a small town, and it's literally the perfect distance between his wife's hometown and his hometown. His wife is from Arkansas. He's from West Texas. It's like it's a 6-hour drive for both sets of grandparents. It just I really appreciated the fit aspect of it. And Chad said something today, like right off the rip, and he was like, fit is something that's hard to describe, but you just get it in your gut. And I think once you started to hear Eric Morris talk, I think it was really hard to not get that feeling in your gut that like, okay, the fit, whatever that magical word means, they nailed it.
Justin, I know you like Josh Pate. He does a phenomenal job, by the way. But one of the things that I disagree with most when he talks about, he says, well, fit's overrated. Like, I think fit is like one of the most important things, because not only is it fit for like now, it's fit for the future on if this is a, 3 years and out type of job. Is this, you know what I mean? So I just feel like it's so important. And you hit on it, Marshall, like so many of the things his answers, and you can see his energy, like the hunger and like, hey, you need me to take out the trash, I'll take out the trash. You need me to go read somebody's transcript, I'll read somebody's transcript to make sure, there's the little things that, and this is not me bagging on Coach Gundy, but Coach Gundy had been doing it for so long and built himself up and put himself in the CEO role that we haven't heard from the head football coach in quite some time. It was like refreshing a little bit in that way. I listened, he had a one-on-one conversation with Dave on OSU's YouTube channel. And I was listening, and like one of my favorite things that actually kind of made me smile is he said he got to, like, I think it was Incarnate Word, and they were getting ready to do practice, and he realized nobody had a mouthpiece in. And he's like, guys, this, football, we need some mouthpieces. And they're like, yeah, we don't have any. Nobody ordered them. We don't have them. And so he's like, that's not going to work. So the head football coach calls a high school in Texas and says, hey, do y'all have any extra mouthpieces? And he's like, yeah, I got a ton of them, but they're blue. Well, Incarnate Word is red and black. And so he said, I had 105 blue mouthpieces that I went and picked up myself, and we got them molded for everybody, and yada yada yada. But it just shows like the links in where he's come from in a short period of time, that he's willing to do whatever it takes to make it work. And I just, little stories like that, it's like you love to hear.
He may have started a trend. I feel like now I'm seeing guys with green, yellow, whatever different color. It's never the school color on the mouthpieces of players nowadays. So he might have started a trend back in the day at Incarnate Word. So that's pretty
fair.
Cool.
Fair point.
And it's interesting too about Josh Pate. Again, love the guy, just brings it all the time. Top-notch content. I am surprised on his stance on fit is overrated. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't change his mind on that when he was just talking about Brian Kelly and the fit at LSU, how he was not really a fit. And it kind of seemed like the writing was on the wall from the very beginning, the recruiting videos and the way he was talking and all this other stuff. And it was kind of like, I don't know, man, this is looking like we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole kind of deal. So yeah, based on everything that I've seen and heard about Eric Morris coming to Oklahoma State, absolutely is a fit. I love the hungry, humble, and smart aspect that he brings. He's going to do things the hard way, as in hard work. It's not like he's going to be cutting corners. He comes from a humble background and really knows how to galvanize the team around that. So whenever you have challenges that come up and you've got the relationship aspect built into it, you're going to be able to push these guys a little bit harder than you would if you were just, you don't know anything about them. You're trying to push them. They're not going to respond to you. So I am looking forward to that aspect of it. Another side of that, I think too, that we haven't had in a long time was he was open to having open practices and having people check that kind of stuff out. So Marshall, what'd you think about that whenever you heard that news?
I would love open practices for the media. It sounded like in the when he was referencing, it was former players. So you guys are in. I'll sneak in with a mustache or something. But yeah, that part of it was awesome. There were a lot of good Incarnate Word stories. So yesterday, Sunday, was the first time that he'd seen the facilities, the Oklahoma State facilities, with his own eyes. Is the first time that he walked around with them and stuff. And so he got asked about in the breakout, he got asked about, what was it like seeing those for the first time? And he said he told this funny story about how Chad during the interview process at some point had sent over a file with a bunch of pictures in it of this stuff. And he referenced a couple of times that I think it was USA Today that named Boone Pickens the best college atmosphere in football. And so this quote that he said back there, and he said, so after he got the file of stuff, he said, I said, listen, with all due respect, have you ever been to Incarnate Word before? And then he said that Chad started chuckling, and he said, no. And he said, well, maybe the worst facility in college football. And so he said that, he said, listen, I sold a dream to parents in the worst facility ever. So the fact that he went and he enjoyed the facilities and had all those, shiny things to recruit to, I think he's pretty fired up about. He said that he's recruited kids in Texas that didn't know where Incarnate Word was. It made me look it up. I knew that it was in Texas. It's in San Antonio, but yeah. So there was a lot of fun Incarnate Word talk today throughout the thing.
Stuff like that is it's just refreshing to hear. There's a few other things today that really stood out to me. Number one, family, right? I think that's kind of his biggest pushing point. Not only his, which as you noticed, I don't know how many have today, Marshall, 20, 15, 20 people in his small circle there today. He's they come to every game. They're a big part of it. You love to see it. He had his boys there. He had his wife. I know it seems kind of silly, but it's as Coach Gundy had tenure had gotten older, I don't remember the last time his wife was present in front of everybody, and his kids obviously are older and graduated, so that's more difficult. But you get what I'm saying. It just kind of helps with everything. And then he really referenced high school recruiting being the lifeblood of what he wants to do. While that's going to vary year to year based off of need in the portal, I do believe he believes strongly in that aspect. And that's something that Oklahoma State's going to have to be good at, is getting those people in high school, evaluating properly, putting a proper value on them financially, and then being able to bring them up and keep them. And so it's great to hear that. And also great to hear him talk about recruiting the state of Oklahoma. He wants to win the state of Oklahoma. I think that's very important for Oklahoma State. You got schools like Bixby, Jinx, Owasso, Union. A lot of the, Booker T's classically done it over the years.
Medill.
They're Medill. Yeah, they're just putting out athletes. But that's what you want to hear from your coach. Obviously, now you need to go see it, but not this class, but the next class and the class following for the state of Oklahoma. You're talking about like national top 100 level recruits that Oklahoma hasn't had in quite some time. I was at a football game, state championship over the weekend for my nephew, and it's like there was Bixby, West Virginia, OU, Missouri. I want to say one other SEC school. Anyways, point being, there's no OSU. And, well, I shouldn't say that. Braden Presley was the one OSU commit. And that was quite honestly a slam dunk. Like, we couldn't have missed that one if we tried. We tried to. But point being is like we need to start getting those caliber of individuals back at Oklahoma State, and it needs to start inside our state. And then he has all the connections in the state of Texas you could ask for. So it was refreshing to hear that as well.
And another little Incarnate Word piece. You mentioned him emphasizing high schools. He said that his first year at Incarnate Word, or whatever year that he brought Cam Ward in, was sort of the year that the transfer portal really started going. And he knew that the group of 5 teams that were, above the FCS level, they're going to be doing a lot of portal. So he figured, I'm going to hit the high schools really hard because there's going to be some kids that would usually get scholarships that aren't going to get scholarships. And I mean, so it like, I don't know, like what worked at Incarnate Word recruiting wise, probably not going to work at Oklahoma State. But to me, that just said like, okay, he's thinking about, problems ahead of him. And like, okay, how could I weave whenever, this is going on like that? So I found that aspect of it really interesting.
Yeah. And one thing that Chad brought up, and he referenced when we go back, this goes back to fit, like you guys are talking about, but he chose Oklahoma State over other options. Like clearly, without them naming schools, there were others out there that were more than interested. We've talked about it, who those schools might be. I guess there's no real reason to guess on that. But the fact of the matter is,
we're very glad we found out that his wife's from Arkansas. So the rumor was floating around that he might be going to Arkansas. When that news came up, inside I started panicking a little bit. I was like, we need to nail this down before they catch wind of this guy. So I'm glad that did.
Yeah. But it was clear that on many different levels, he chose Oklahoma State. And that always makes for a better relationship. Some of these things, some of these coaching jobs that we've seen, obviously we don't know the ins and outs. The appearance is, hey, I'm waiting for something to see if that opens up, and then we might strike a deal. When you guys married your wife, that's probably not the way your relationship went. It's like, hey, I'm going to see, I don't know, keep my options open and see if you're still around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not the way that you want a strong relationship to get started. So the fact of the matter is, like, he started early, signed early, knew what he wanted. We were all on the same page. Like, that breeds confidence in me that we're the alignment that we've been missing and the things that we've been wanting from a athletic department standpoint. Like, this is a great start.
Some other things in the press conference that got me fired up as it relates to a great start. He's talking about how he's not scared. He's interested in bringing Bedlam back. Morris wants to welcome Bedlam with open arms, but that's not necessarily the case across the fan base. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I totally get people's maybe apprehensions on playing Bedlam. I get OU left. I get it. I get Oklahoma State has not had a ton of success in this. I also get that. I've always been pro Bedlam. It's just a big game on the schedule that, like, no matter what, you get excited for that. If OSU's having, think of the 2014 season. OSU was playing horribly. They go into that game, the last game of the season, with 5 wins. They, the Tyreek Hill punt return, they get their 6th win. They go on this bowl. And like, you remember that 2014 season, instead of remembering it because it was the Dax Garman year, JW Walsh got hurt, everything went south. We remember, remember Bedlam though? Like that's.
Hey. There's no reason to say everything went south in that tone. All right. South is nice. Oh, thank you.
Everything went
south
the opposite
well.
Of good.
Okay. Now think about it like this though. If they were on the schedule this year and we were playing them instead of Iowa State, the last game of the year, would you share that enthusiasm knowing that we were probably going to get curb stomped?
As opposed to like the other 9 times that Oklahoma State got curb stomped this year? Like, I don't know. To me, it's
hurts
like
a little worse whenever it's from OU.
Yeah, and I totally get that. I just think like you want to look forward to something. Like it's a big game, and it's a big game for Oklahoma too. I just, like, as a little kid growing up in Oklahoma, could not wait for the Bedlam game. No matter, I didn't know the schedule. I didn't know anything like that. I just knew that I wanted Oklahoma State to beat Oklahoma this year. We, paid a quarter for the blood drive to get little OSU stickers on the wall. They were like me and like 5 OSU friends that were, and then the other wall was just like filled with OU helmets, but we're just, saving our quarters up and throwing those things on the wall. So like that's what I just think like kids in Oklahoma should have this game to look forward to. I am also kids in Oklahoma. I want to look forward to this game. I just think it makes so much better of an atmosphere. It is college football, rivalries like this, all that stuff. So I've always been pro Bedlam. I'm cool with it being brought back.
You make a great argument. Honestly, you moved me a little farther than I thought you would, because I'm honestly pretty much against it. Several reasons. Number one, I want my coach to say what he said, right? You want him to say, essentially, roll the ball out to the 50, blow the whistle, and we'll play whoever's out in front of us, right? That's what you want. And I think that's one thing that a lot of our fan base felt really negatively about Bedlam in Gundy's tenure, was like you felt like he was holding back or tentative or didn't really want to because they were the haves and we were the have-nots. And you heard a lot of that stuff, right? And so I think that really turned a lot of people off. So you'd love to hear that from Coach. Absolutely. There's a couple reasons why I'm not a fan of it. Number one, they left. Sorry about you. That's on you. You left us in the dust to die. I don't want to help you out at all. Don't want any revenue going towards you. I don't want anything good. I don't want you gain. If you beat Oklahoma State, I don't want that being a quality win on your resume. I want none of it. Secondly, I want to schedule like Indiana, because Indiana's got it figured out. Okay. And in this, what we just learned this past weekend in the playoffs is good luck if you lose early, unless you're in the SEC. And if you didn't beat somebody head to head, you got no chance, because I don't even think BYU was a very good team. Just throwing it out there. But if you were just to look at everything all together, they had a better resume than Miami. They had a better resume than Notre Dame by every metric. So it doesn't matter. So there's very little in it outside of our fan enjoyment. And until it becomes that way, the SEC going to 9 games soon and showing no real positives from the college football playoff standpoint, I have very little desire, if I'm just being 100% honest. I'll never forget that Oregon game, and that's because we were such a bad football team. But my gosh, did that just absolutely – I mean, that was the worst. And can you imagine if that was Oklahoma? Like, I would never forget that game. The joy of beating Oklahoma has been so few and far between over the last 20 years, even though it should have been a lot more. I just don't really see the benefit in helping them out, to be honest. I just don't.
The other side of it is it helps Oklahoma State out. More eyeballs on the program, bigger rivalry. People are more interested across the nation. More people are interested potentially to go to Oklahoma State. Big name recruits. If you happen to knock off OU, things like that, doesn't do anything for you?
No, because if you lose the game, like, let's just say if you lose it, then you essentially have to go perfect in the Big 12 the rest of the way. Can't go 2 losses in the Big 12 unless you win it, unless you win the Big 12 conference. So you're stacking yourself up. You're stacking against.
So win the Big 12 conference. Because if you lose 2 games anyways, like if you don't win the Big 12, you're probably not getting in either. So your route to the playoff is winning the Big 12. This game against OU in some ways doesn't matter at all then.
I love it, but easier said than done.
Like, I wanted BYU in too. I think BYU definitely deserved to be in over Miami. I think the ACC was so horrendous this year. They did not deserve anybody to get in. But like, if the bar for the Big 12 getting in is literally winning the conference because Texas Tech's the only one that got in, then what does it matter if you lose to an SEC team?
I don't know. Why don't you ask Duke?
Well, yeah,
ask Duke if it matters how much you lose before you go into your conference championship game.
Yeah, I don't think if Oklahoma State's ever 4 losses.
I'm just saying. I would much rather be Indiana than Duke.
Indiana's non-con schedule this year: Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State. I'd prefer
Kennesaw State. Was
They won
actually
the CUSA the other night.
10, 11 wins this year. So
Yeah, won the CSU.
but come on,
CUSA.
differences in programs there.
Yeah.
And then,
I get everybody's arguments for not playing it. I totally do. It's just me personally, I like having that game on the schedule.
I do too. As a fan, I miss. Well, number one, I don't miss it being the last game of the year because that never helped us out. But I do miss being in Boone Pickens Stadium for Bedlam. Like there are very few games that have that energy, and we were very fortunate over Coach Gundy's tenure that more often than not, it meant something more than just the game. Because I was like, we both had two really good teams. That was either, if you lose, you're out. You win, you're in. Unfortunately, we have so many. We can go back over how many times we dropped the ball there, literally. But I don't know, just from a standpoint of what does this do for us moving forward? It's really hard for me to see how this benefits Oklahoma State as much as you would think it would.
I just think so much of college football nowadays is not about the fans. Everything's moving away from the fans.
That's fair. I agree.
Let's give this to the fans.
I agree. Now, one thing I did hear somebody bring up, which did kind of intrigue me, and I think you would probably just have to split the revenue either way, but you'd be like a Bedlam football brought to you by Brahms or whatever that may be, and you add an extra $500,000 to each school or $200,000 or, I don't know. I mean, that's about the only way I see something like that. You got to make it financially worth everybody's time.
I think that would definitely happen. If the Tulsa game keeps getting the Turnpike Classic, it changes sponsors basically every year. But I forgot who it was this year. But if that can get sponsorship, I imagine Bedlam will be pretty easy to sponsor. Paycom, what's up, Paycom? What are you doing?
Yeah, Justin.
I want to say that this is probably some recency bias. I understand the overall record against OU is horrendous, but Mike Gundy for 20 years played a big part in that record being as bad as it was. It could have been a lot better. The way that Eric Morris is talking has me thinking he's going to be winning a lot of games. Why not have some of those games against OU? And it would take him not very long to be able to match Gundy's Bedlam record on number of wins. Probably. You get something rolling there. So in that case, what better way to stack up against the greatest Oklahoma State coach in the history of the program than to go on a 5-game winning streak against OU? I'm not saying that would happen, but anything's possible if you play that game. So
do you feel like the difference between the haves and the have-nots is getting larger in the game of football?
To a certain extent, yes.
Yeah, because it just depends on
so if that was already
you're looking at. Because if you look at Indiana, for example, they were a have-not forever, and all of a sudden
they got big money.
They're here. They might be staying for a while.
They've got big boy money.
This is a total side tangent, but they're just now changing the playoff rules to like go back to what we were before. We got to the playoff that way, everybody had a shot, and now they're just like, well, Notre Dame, if they're in the top 12, we're going to put them in. And
don't get started on Notre Dame.
You think we're going to drop Alabama out after losing bad in the SEC championship game? No, but we're going to drop BYU out for playing bad in the Big 12 championship game. And I get the SEC is definitely better than Big 12, but it's just like, what if like Texas Tech wins? And I don't really know that this is going to happen, but if Texas Tech wins the national championship and like beats everybody by 10 points, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, we didn't let BYU in, by the way, who only lost to Texas Tech this year. That's going to be the stupidest thing ever. This is a playoff that like everybody is supposed to, yeah.
I get it to an extent. I understand that sentiment, Marshall, but at the same time, we shouldn't have 12 teams in the playoff to begin with. 8 max. And
16?
You have no argument. You have no argument for BYU. You have no argument for Alabama, Notre Dame. Get out of here. Texas, I don't even want to hear it. Vandy, get out. Stop. You have no shot at winning a national championship.
What about Duke?
Stop it.
Especially Duke. And if we had 8 teams in the playoff, we wouldn't have to hear much of this ridiculous discourse going on right now. They have no shot against any of the top 4 teams. So an 18 playoff would be perfect. But I digress. I'll get off my soapbox. That's all I got to say about it.
Okay, the reason why I brought up the haves and the have-nots is that was already a problem when we played Bedlam. And I don't want to use this as an excuse, but it's just a reality. So now you're going to be playing a game that's even more so the divide on money spent and things like that is only getting wider. And it's like, do you want to hitch your wagon, pun intended, to that game?
Well, what if we make it to the playoff and we have to match up against them? Are we just going to use that as an excuse for why we're planning on losing to them?
No, I'm just saying I just don't know if I want to sign up for that every single year regardless. Until it's an equal playing field, which it's never going to be, because the greed is not going to allow for that to happen unless somebody comes in and says you have to do it. Because you guys brought up a good point, and we don't have to get up on the playoffs, but it's like, why do we even have conference championship games? They're pointless.
Why do we play regular season games?
Right, you're right, Marshall. That's it. But then it's like, you're going to say, well, BYU looked really bad against Texas Tech, so we couldn't move them up. But then you didn't move Bama down, even though they got beat by the same margin. It doesn't make any sense. We're playing helmet sticker football, and we're going to lose every single time until you go to an NFL model that is, you've got division winners are in. You have 2 or 3 wild cards. And that's how you do it. So every single game matters. It's not a beauty pageant. You don't care about how much you win by. All that matters is that you win your division or you're a wild card. And you spread it out. But that'll never happen. Because
they want to have 2, 3, 4 SEC teams.
I was going to say, because the commissioner of the SEC, Greg Sankey, Mr. Stanky, is the antithesis of what college football needs. He is single-handedly killing the game of college football. And it'll never happen until his power gets stripped. And it's only going to get stripped by government, and I don't want government in sports. So I don't know how it's going to happen.
That'd be the only thing that could make it worse, is like, what if the government got involved?
the U.S. government, it runs things so efficiently and well. I just think it's going to do a really good job. I mean, can you imagine the DMV taking over how we run our college football?
No, thank you. Marshall, get us with this ad read.
I almost said the Pistols Firing podcast. I've listened to you and Carson and or Colby both say it so long that I almost just did it off memory. Okay. The Reload podcast is brought to you by Brewster Consulting Group. Did any of these sound familiar at your company? Our processes are manual and inefficient with no documentation. Our data reporting takes forever and isn't accurate. We hear all the hype about AI, but have no clue what it actually means for our business. Our projects always run over time and over budget. If so, talk with our friends at Brewster Consulting Group. They help build organizations that run like well-oiled machines with clear processes, reliable data and reporting, and technology that actually works for you. Their team of 6 Sigma Black Belts, PMP certified project managers, and seasoned data engineers have delivered solutions that are built to last for local clients like the Tulsa International Airport and Medify. They've also delivered solutions for large international enterprises like DP World. Even better, Brewster was founded and is run by a proud OSU alum and season ticket holder. Learn more about them at www.brewsterconsulting.com or learn more about their methodologies by connecting with them at Brewster Consulting Group on LinkedIn or YouTube.
You're hired.
How was that out of 10? I fumbled a couple of words, but I just felt pushing through was the answer there.
It's like an 8.5 out of 10.
I'll take that. Room for improvement and still starting pretty hot.
But you mentioned Pistols Firing, and I'd be remiss to say the Reload / Pistols Firing Megapod has to be coming up soon. So what are we going to do for that ad read in that case?
I think we'll just draw straws, and whoever has to read it has to read it.
We each take a line. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. All right. Hoops got the win against Grand Canyon University, and we play Bedlam this weekend. But before we get to Bedlam, we got to talk about some of the performance that we have seen from the Pokes up to this point. And while he only scored, I think it was like 6 points the other night, Kanye Clary, Mr. Clutch. He's coming up clutch in situations. Anthony Roy looking great. Victorious Miller, is he going to be back for Bedlam? What's going on?
Yeah, it seems like it. So if you remember back to last week at some point, the Sam Houston game, he went down in the first half, was like grabbing at his foot / ankle. I think it was a foot. I think he got stepped on. Didn't look good while he was trying to like hobble over to the bench, but then he stayed on the bench. He was like going in and out of timeouts. So he was a game time decision in Phoenix, suited up, went through some warm-ups, and then just ended up not playing. So that to me says he's good. I imagine with a game like Bedlam on the schedule, and everybody knows how important this will be, I imagine that he's going to play. So I think all things, it didn't look great whenever it was happening. Like I said, he was walking very gingerly whenever he was walking off the court. But I think, threat avoided. I think Victorious Miller is going to be back. Don't know that for certain. Didn't ask Steve today when I saw him, but I do think that Victorious Miller will be back for Bedlam, I think.
Okay. This is not me saying he is this player, nor is it me saying he's going to be this player. But that shot that Cleary hit reminded me so much of the John Lucas pull-up.
Nice.
From the
Same
left
wing.
side of the floor,
Yeah.
right? I know. It's just like, I just saw it and I was like, oh, it's like smaller guard, pull-up, J, sealer. I was like, this is nice. This is just nice
And
to
he
see.
laid out for his steal to seal it. So,
I mean,
Eddie Sutton type of defense going on. You love to see.
yeah. Well, I think one thing that you brought up, Marshall, and we've talked about, one of the more impressive things so far about this team is no Jennings, who's clearly like a floor general captain, somebody that Coach Lutz really trusts. No Miller. You go and you win. That's a much harder game than it looks like. You did it earlier a lot without some other players missing quite a bit of time. And in this team, because it is multiple and deep, you're able to do certain things. Like, there was a lineup there towards the end of that game where he had both point guards out there with Roy and a couple other guys. And it's just like, that's not something you probably would draw up as your closing lineup, but you did, and they came through in a clutch way. And hey, Parsifala, dude, how long has it been since Oklahoma State has had a guy that you can just dump it down to and the big guy goes to battle? I mean, it's no disrespect to the Boone twins, but he could not nowhere close to what he can do back to the basket work. It's amazing to see. And anytime the offense gets stagnant at all, it's like, okay, jumpers aren't falling, time to toss it down to the big fella and let him get to work, right? That's old school basketball we haven't seen in quite some time. Under Coach Boynton, it was kind of like, just keep throwing it up there. Percentages are going to even out. That is not what Coach Lutz does. Like, he does not try to go 3 for 3 with the other teams. They're hitting, keep going. If not, get it inside, work inside out, get you an open jumper. They had a couple times where unbelievable ball movement, and we hit who was it? It was Cam, I think, on the corner. He did like a 2-step and then came in. I just thought it was a really good performance. Wasn't their best performance, but it was a good performance from the standpoint of they overcame adversity on the road without their best player, in my opinion, and without one of their floor generals. Didn't shoot their best, but found a way to win. Dumped it down to the big fella, and he went to work.
And a bounce back game for Christian Coleman as well. So he was. Everybody contributed.
I said Cam. I meant Christian. I don't know Cameron Coleman. I think he's the wide receiver at Auburn. I keep getting mixed up. Christian Coleman.
But too many names floating around there.
Hey, he had that double pump where he stayed on the same side of the rim. That basket was absurd. He's so athletically gifted.
Did you guys see his tech? That was the weakest tech I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I had to tweet about it. It was so bad. It reminded me a little bit of Markel Brown back whenever he did that.
I was going to make that comparison, but I didn't want people to be like, "You're comparing this guy to Markel."
No, but that dunk against Missouri, yes,
yeah, for sure.
9-0 for the first time since 06. Is that right?
Sean Sutton's first year, whenever that was.
05, 06?
Something like that. Is it 05, 06 or 06, 07?
Oh, wow. Here we go.
But Chris Coleman, he got benched the Sam Houston game, and it did not look great. I asked Steve about it afterwards because he didn't play in the second half, and I was like, Chris, and it was right after I asked about Victorious Miller, and he was sort of fired up anyways because they didn't play very good defense, and that was like all he wanted to talk about. And I was like, Chris Coleman didn't play the second, and he was like, coach's decision. And I was like, okay. But he had a nice bounce back game. He goes from being benched in the second half to 16 points on 7 for 11 shooting, had 6 rebounds, a block and a steal, almost got teed up again, got yelled at for that second one because I think he was like talking some smack going into a timeout, and Lutz just like grabbed him and was like, dude, you're about to get kicked out of this basketball game. The first tee was absolutely horrendous. It wasn't even like, and I get it sometimes whenever the stare lingers a little too long, but like the stare just started and that guy blew his whistle and was like,
so bad.
Yeah, that was it
wasn't even long enough if you replayed it in slow motion.
Yeah, that was brutal. And then you mentioned it not being the cleanest game. That almost gave me the most positive stuff moving forward, because it's like Oklahoma State went 0 for 7 from 3, I think, in the first half, and finished 4 for 13 from 3. They had fewer assists and more turnovers than Grand Canyon. They lost the rebounding battle for the first time this season, and they won the game. So like, if all of that could go wrong whenever you're basically playing on the road in Phoenix, like that makes me feel pretty good about Oklahoma State moving forward. I sort of wonder, because the defense, especially at the beginning, was not good. I sort of wonder if this team needs a loss to like really kick it into gear. And you know, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you're hoping that's not Saturday. That's when that lesson gets learned. But like, they just have not locked in consistently enough on the defensive end of the floor, and Lutz is getting ticked about it.
Okay. So counterpoint. Anytime they have played somebody that they felt was on their level athletically, it has been a different effort defensively. Not what you want from a coach, right? As a coach, you want no matter who's out there, you go out there, you suffocate, like Kelvin Sampson style. Those boys are not there right now. But the couple games that we've played against above average to similar, the defensive effort has been completely different. So that's my hope for Bedlam, is that they realize how important that is and they're going to go for it.
Yeah, my only worry is it seems like the first half they stink at defense, they get yelled at halftime, they come out and then they play better defense. My worry is that they're going to be down like 14 in some game and then not be able, they're going to, get it back to 4 or something, and then they're going to lose and be like, well, if only you're playing defense in the first half.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got the human microwave in Brandon Roy. Brandon Roy
is a
great. Portland Trailblazer, great. I am all over the place with names right now. Man, my bad.
Start going numbers.
This is exactly. I'm going to go Coach Gundy style. No, Anthony Roy. It's like you just kind of wait for when that cluster of jumpers is going to come. Right? It's like kind of a little off, and then you look around. He's like, he's got 14, and while 14 doesn't seem like that much, I think 8 of them came in the span of like 2.5 minutes when the team really needed it. He had that corner 3. He doesn't really have a conscience, which is kind of good when shooting. And he's getting better at distributing. It's a really nice thing to have in your back pocket. Same thing. Victorious Miller gives you the same thing, but it's like one of those two is going to give you a cluster of points. And if they happen at the same time, like you're going to go down by a lot really quickly.
Good call. I kind of skipped past it. We started talking about hoops. I do want to bounce back to football. And mostly because, what was it, National Signing Day just happened. We haven't talked about that yet. So want to get quick thoughts on how you guys felt about our recruits, obviously landing a couple of bigger names that we could have potentially fumbled. So got to give props where it's due. But any other thoughts that just stick out to you as far as who these guys are that we're bringing in?
I thought just in general, it was a good, like you see Oklahoma State, I think I checked this morning, they were like 88th in 247's rankings. That's not good. And if next year, if they're at 88th, that's bluntly not good enough. But I think considering that they went into the day with like 2 or 3 commits, and the fact that they signed 15, they get Katie Jones back on board. They keep Braden Presley. I think those are the two, even like before the firing and whenever they had that class built up. I think if you would have asked most Oklahoma State fans, hey, you can only have 2 of these guys. Who do you want? I imagine most of them would say Katie Jones and Braden Presley. Taj Overton and the Arkansas defensive lineman, they might have been, better long-term, but like, I think, keeping those 2 fan favorites was massive. Just the fact that, they again signed 15 guys, and a lot of it, and we sort of talked with Morris about this today, is that a lot of it were guys that he just brought over from the North Texas class. He stuck with his evaluations. He mentioned how important it was for him to like sign guys that he's like seen with his own eyes. He didn't want to, sign a kid off of Huddle, is how he described it. So, I think that's certainly
a lot of AI out there. You can't trust it. I'm just kidding.
My Huddle,
you imagine
maybe he flips on my Huddle to see what's going on over there. But so yeah, I was cool with him. As far as sticking with your evaluations, I think that's a good thing, especially his evaluations have turned out to be pretty good so far. We could talk quarterback here in a little bit if you guys want to. A guy that I was super impressed with was JT Weir. I don't know if it's Johnny or Yanni or something Weir. He's a super quick junior college receiver. How does that going to pan out? I don't know, but on his Twitter bio, and again, like I could put whatever I want to on my Twitter bio, but it said 10.6 in the 100, a lasered 40 at 4.38. That'll do. Yeah. And if you watch his highlights, they are just him absolutely sprinting past people. So I was really stoked to see him. So that was sort of my takeaway from signing day.
Man, I absolutely love the forum. I love the PFB Plus. But my goodness, some of the people were going nuts in there. And it's like the guys had 4 days to put together a class. Number one, that was already falling apart. You thought that he was going to come in with no relationship and get, Taj away from Missouri. Like, that just wasn't going to happen unless you had all the money, and we weren't going to give them that much without ever seeing them again. KD Jones, that was a great, late addition. And then obviously Presley, is a very good player, and he's much bigger than any of his brothers, and we'll see how that pans out at this level. But from an overall standpoint, it looked, to your point, Marshall, like he didn't take the whole UNT class. He took the guys he really thought he could come and play at this level. And then I'm sure he'll do the same thing with the portal. And I think this is going to be a much bigger portal class than he would like, in the way that he likes to build his teams. So, we'll wait and see. In that 88th, some of that's due to only signing 15 and, the overall point system and however all that stuff works. But I kind of chuckled when he was like, hey, guys, if I sign a 3-star quarterback, please don't get mad at me. I wanted to be like, buddy, we've been living in 3-star quarterback land for 10 years now. like you might hear it, but we're used to it. But you trust his valuation until otherwise, right? That's the reason why he's even your head coach, is some of the things that he was able to do and see past and think outside the box.
Yeah. You also got to wonder about some of the evaluations on some of these stars. It's like KD Jones, if he were signed and committed with Alabama, he'd probably be a 4-star and his grade would be higher, but he's going to Oklahoma State, so we're going to knock him down.
And, that's the thing. We've seen it with a couple players that have come through Oklahoma State now, and you've seen it periodically over the years. But it's like a lot of people have this notion that's like, well, if he didn't work out at Alabama, oh yeah, he's going to come to Oklahoma State and crush it. It's like, those schools miss valuations all the time too. They just have the funds and the overall depth that it doesn't hurt them as much as a school like Oklahoma State or something like that if you miss. So it's like, just because he pulls somebody from UNT or something like that, like the valuation, he might actually think he's higher for what he's trying to get accomplished than the kid in the portal that is coming from Tennessee that didn't play for 3 years or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? So like, you really just have to trust the process and understand what he's trying to get accomplished. And I mean, some of the best players we've had in the portal so far at Oklahoma State are not the ones that have come over from Auburn or wherever those schools might be. It's some of the guys that were hungry. They wanted it. They did, their intellect was really high. They had great motors, those type of things. So I don't know. It wasn't like a booming success like you saw Virginia Tech because of they got the Penn State coach and he had like 10 targets that he brought over from Penn State because their relationships were there. I actually applaud coach for not just being like, hey, let's just go sign as many kids as we can without having what I believe in them. And I think sticking to your guns in that way is a good sign for Oklahoma State, that he trusts his process and his eyes and what his coaching staff and general manager are looking for. And that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the quarterback. Broderick Veers is his name. It's how it's pronounced. I've seen it Brody sometimes. I asked him, the first question I asked him was, do you prefer Broderick or Brody? He said Broderick.
Wow. Okay.
Then I asked him, how do you pronounce your last name? And he said Veers. So he was like in May, I think, committed to Northern Arizona. Then he said that North Texas and Coach Morris started to turn up the heat a little bit after they saw that he committed. He mentioned that he committed really early whenever Northern Arizona started showing interest because of some of the things we mentioned, with the portal and stuff like that, that there's a lot of times that some of these high school kids, they don't have a very big window to actually accept, a scholarship offer. So he jumped in on that really quick. Then Morris came in, started turning the heat on him. Then he flipped. He said that, whenever he sees that Morris gets hired, he didn't know that he was coming with him until the weekend, so he had to wait through Thanksgiving, and he was sort of like, he told me like he wanted to ask questions, but he also didn't know if they had the answers to the questions that he could ask just because everything was moving so quick. Then it got to the weekend. He brought him with him. It's at a Basha High School in Chandler, Arizona. It's a really good program. They've produced a lot of really good guys. So it was cool talking to him. How does it work out? I don't know. It's weird because you don't want to, like, he is a 3-star quarterback who was committed to Northern Arizona. So it's like that you take that, then you take the stuff that, Eric Morris has done with, Cam Ward. And it's like, okay, I don't want to undervalue him just because he's a 3-star quarterback who's committed to Arizona, but I also don't want to hold him to the Cam Ward standard. So that's the weird middle ground. Yeah, that's the weird middle ground that I'm trying to get myself in. But I asked him, what he enjoys doing. He likes playing the UFC video game, big UFC guy. He said he also likes bowling. I told him that Dave Hunziker is going to love him. Dave Hunziker is probably at the lanes right now, getting ready for Project Fears to come in. So he was a nice kid when I was talking to him. I'm somewhere in the middle of a 3-star who was committed to Northern Arizona, and is this the next Cam Ward? That's where I'm in the middle of right now.
Makes sense.
Okay, not to get into this like I'm going to recruit a kid off a huddle, but he made some throws in the first 30 seconds of his huddle highlight that I haven't seen at Oklahoma State in quite some time.
You're going to get back into zip season?
Yeah, exactly. It is zip season. No,
right.
But one of the things that Coach Morris talks every time I've heard him talk about quarterbacks and how he goes about his valuations, and he talks heavily about he learned so much from Cliff Kingsbury and Dana Holgerson on what makes a good quarterback and Coach Leach at this level, and how do you identify those traits that are not readily available just by looking height, size, all the stuff. So much of it he talks about is the processing speed and what they can handle from an information standpoint and break down. And so that stuff is really difficult to measure and is oftentimes missed in these metrics. And so when he talks about it, he has his own set of standards of what he's looking for. And so to your point, Marshall, maybe in 2 years, the physical catches up to maybe what he sees in him from a mental capacity standpoint. Who knows? In the portal, we may never see the kid play. I mean, that's just the reality of where we're at right now in college football, unfortunately. Yeah. But you got to trust what he's doing.
Yeah, he in talking with Veers, he mentioned that I think he's listed at 6 feet. He said that probably hampered his recruiting really taking off quite a bit. And he told me something along the lines of like, yeah, a lot of guys won't take a quarterback unless he's 6'5", 240, I think is what he told me. So, little undersized, but and he keeps mentioning like there's stuff that they do to sort of gauge what's between the ears. And I sort of just want to like take that test. I want to know what a quarterback goes through. And if I'm Eric Morris, I'm not sure that I'm letting that information out. Like, hey, I've got the secret sauce to evaluating quarterbacks. I'm not going to tell you guys, but I want to know about that process. That's something that's really interesting.
That'd be cool. I got one other thing to follow up here with you guys on, because Nathan, you threw it into our DMs a couple of days ago. I don't know how much of this has been confirmed yet. Just been all on board with Eric Morris coming over and seeing all of those interviews. But Matt Zenitz looks like he's a national college football senior reporter. Big time deal. All right. So he tweeted out that Oklahoma State is expected to hire North Texas Skylar Cassidy as its defensive coordinator. In his one season at North Texas as their DC, he led the way as the team improved from 13th in the American in total defense last year to 4th this season. That was followed up with a tweet from PFF College that said North Texas's defense had an elite 90.4 overall grade this season. With that information, does that get you fired up that Cassidy might be coming to Oklahoma? And I don't know if has this been announced? I'm assuming that this is pretty much going to be happening if it hasn't happened already.
It hasn't been announced. I saw Braden Cassidy at the thing today. Like it feels like it's very much happening. Matt Zenitz is he knows what he's talking about. So
yeah. One thing, so it's kind of cool. His dad was an offensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. I think it was
DC.
DC. Okay, coordinator. How about that? Obviously his younger brother played for Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State's very much in their family. And I, as much as anybody, wanted Coach Knowles back. Like that, we talked about like our wish list, right? And the dream scenario, and it really looks like Penn State's going to get a new DC, because Heacock's coming over from Iowa State. And it's like, oh, yeah.
I can't, sorry, aside, how did Penn State fumble their
search
so hard and nailed it at the same time?
I don't know. It's confounding when you have that much money, I guess. But there's so much to like about what he presents from a defensive standpoint and like what he does. Very similar to like what Coach Knowles has done Coach Morse talked today about how you have to play together in conjunction, especially when you have like an explosive offense, and how do you, create most turnovers and do these type of things. Really talked about having great athletes on the outside and at safety, because you like to play a lot of man because you want to bring pressure and speed things up and utilize that. That's exactly what Coach Knowles would do. I mean, he'd get steady on the line, do a lot of man pressures, especially on 3rd and long, come after you, and speed you up and get exotic and do things like that. So that part of it really excites me. The few games that I watched them this year, they were a great tackling football team. They really did a good job of that, and really, really of keeping people in front of them and doing things like that. It's going to take time no matter what. Like that, the defense usually takes longer than the offense to catch up. We watched Coach Knowles. It took at least 2 full seasons before Oklahoma State really took off and became a very good defensive football team. So it does excite me, because everywhere let's just say everywhere, the last 2 stops that he's been at, he's made dramatic improvements very shortly, in Sam Houston State and then North Texas.
Yeah, so just a couple of stats. So the 2024 North Texas defense was without him. The 2025 North Texas defense was with him. They shaved 10 points per game off. They shaved about 90 yards of total offense off. A lot of that was in the passing game, because in 2024 they were giving up 265 passing yards a game. This year they're giving up 163 passing yards a game, which is they're giving up more in the run game, which is, just sort of is what it is. But yeah, sort of like you mentioned, I do think it's going to take some time, because this will be defensive coordinator number 6 in 6 years at Oklahoma State, and there's just so many different things pulling in different directions that if it is Skylar Cassidy, and it very much, or Skylar, yeah, I thought I said Braden for a second. It is Skylar Cassidy, and it very much seems like that's where this is going. Just 3 years at least. Just some time to put a system in, please, dear God.
Just keep Wendell Gregory. Let's start with that.
Yeah, that'll fix a lot of issues.
Yeah, no. One thing that I wanted to make sure and bring up with Coach Morse, but it ties into this, is that throughout the years, the Achilles heel of all these quote unquote air raid offenses is the inability to control the clock and run the ball and be creative in your run to allow your defense to get some rest and do some things, especially when the weather gets colder. You've got to be able to run the ball to win big games. Coach Morse has talked quite a bit at length at how he is different than most air raid offenses that he has ever come across. And something he really started to do at Incarnate Word was recruit tight ends so you could run the ball inside. And you really saw that this year with North Texas, and the ability that their running back Hawkins, I mean, he was very, very good this season. I believe he led NCAA in rushing touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. But that understanding is probably a good reason why he wants to bring over the coach, right? Because you already have that relationship of, hey, we need to work together as a team and understand, like, this is what our offense does well, this is what our defense does well. We've got to be able to work together. So I've heard him talk about that quite a bit, and it's something that I really like, because whenever I first started looking at Coach, I was like, I love a lot. He needs to be able to prove to me, just as a fan, that you can run whenever you need to. And I think they played Navy or something like that, and Caleb Hawkins had like 36 carries for 200 and something yards. I mean, it was one of those crazy games. You're like, okay, that's a game you have to run to win, and that's exactly what he did. And so I was like, okay, that's what I like to see.
Running out of time tonight, but wanted to give a shout out to the wrestling team. Going up to Cougar Clash, 3 champions. Oklahoma State brought home a title for Ronnie Ramirez, Alex Facundo, and Zach Ryder out of the 17 Cowboys that went up to Illinois this past weekend. So congratulations to those guys. Marshall, any other quick thoughts on the Cougar Clash for the wrestling?
Yeah, I'll go very quickly. 133 was sort of the story of the weekend for Oklahoma State. Richard Figueroa and Ronnie Ramirez were in the same bracket, as were Sam Smith and Rin Sakamoto, who I was very excited about, and he went 0-2. But they everybody missed each other somehow. There was no Oklahoma State on Oklahoma State action, which is what I was after. Yeah. But Richard Figueroa got a bye into the second round, lost that second round matchup to a guy that ended up going to the finals, but then Ronnie Ramirez beat that guy in the finals. Ronnie Ramirez beat Julian Farber, who has been North UNI's starter. So it gets the feeling that it's probably, the Richard Figueroa experiment might be near its end. If it's not there already, it looks like, it'll probably be Ronnie Ramirez at 133, unless Jax Forrest enrolls next semester and then it takes over. So I don't know. That's 133 like it was last year is going to be a storyline. It feels like all season. But Richard Figueroa, it wasn't. It was another not great weekend for him, and the fact that Ronnie Ramirez then won that bracket, to me, probably says that he's probably going to burn that red shirt and be the guy going forward.
Yeah,
that was my question. I was like, out of all the things, I feel like we've got an issue at 133, and it might have solved itself.
Yeah, I think they almost went to that tournament just to have that bracket. I think because that's what these open tournaments. That's a lot of times what people use them for. Like Penn State always goes to the Black Knight Invitational, and that's where they have their wrestle offs. Basically, is you've got one Penn Stater on the top side of the bracket, one Penn Stater at the bottom side of the bracket. They'll meet in the finals, and that's when the starter will be determined there. So that's sort of what these were. But the fact that Oklahoma State had multiple guys in basically every bracket, and I watched wrestling all day yesterday. My wife had no clue how long I was going to watch wrestling for, and neither did I. It started at 9, and I was done at 5:30, and I was like, "Geez, Louise, that took longer than I was expecting it to." But I had a lot of fun. But yeah, it was weird seeing no OSU guys go against each other, which is sort of the whole reason that I wanted to watch.
They have West Virginia at Morgantown, and then Nebraska and Lincoln. So they've got a couple of away duels coming up to kind of round out the year, it looks like. So catch Oklahoma State Wrestling, David Taylor, all the good stuff they're doing over there. Guys, we'll probably be back later this week.
The Megapod, it's almost been a thing for a handful of times now, but it really feels like, this feels like the most that it has been a thing. It's just hard getting 5 guys on one schedule who all have different jobs. That's the issue that we keep running into. But
you have to listen to this one before you can listen to that. So knock it out. We try to keep it short, under an hour for you, so that we could, we tried. So we'll see you next time. Like, share, subscribe, show your support, keep those pistols firing, and remember to reload. Go Pokes.